Yeah. What up? It's Chris from Blackland Ownership. I hope you're doing well. I'm out here. It's a lovely day in DC. You see, right after the storm, the blossoms are out. And I want to check in. I am not here to argue or fight with people. I would like to be a unifying catalyst and force and energy in the universe. But some of the ways I feel or think continue to be conflictual. I hope you take it as an effort to build and connect and have more discussion. I want to talk about the reason. I want to discuss why history is important, why social studies are important, why a liberal arts education is beneficial to the youth. For so many years, we've been getting all this talk about STEM and math and engineering, while we haven't really been enforcing that or getting great at it in this country. But let's say we are focused on STEM or business, or you talk to a lot of young people and they'll tell you they wish they knew how to run a business. Like in high school, they want to learn about how to run a business. They want to learn about money. They want to understand how to go make money in the world. And one question I ask them is, make money doing what? Shouldn't you have some understanding of what's important in society historically? Shouldn't there be some understanding of how humans are affected by work, labor, consumption, production, materials? That comes through social studies. That comes through history. If you were going to run a business, or let's say you want to get into real estate, shouldn't you understand the history of housing and land ownership in the country? Let's say you want to make cars. Shouldn't you understand the impact of auto factories on workers' lives, or how it affected the American economy in the early 1900s? There are so many elements. Ooh, that fence got blown down in the storm. Not awesome. Where you could give examples of why having an understanding of philosophy, history, literature, and these soft skills could be very important to running a business. Not just the simplicity of you run a business and you need to write things out. So, of course, you needed to have taken a literature class or a humanities class so that you have the ability to write or you know how to communicate effectively with others. But on a much larger level, paradigmatically, ideologically, how do we know what's possible if we haven't studied the potential presented from human history? How do we know what's possible if we aren't having discussions about the history of certain institutions and activities in our country and the effect that they have on people? How do you run a business without being aware of regulations and the history of regulatory bodies by the U.S. government and state and local and things that aren't just business talk? And an example would be all the tech people right now who are talking about progress socially and talking about what should happen socially. None of these people are social scientists. They are engineers. They're computer programmers. They are business people trying to tell humans how humans should live. But they have not studied the history of how humans have lived. They are not well versed on what happens when you create monopolies, oligarchies, are consumer-oriented, material-oriented, consolidate power and wealth into the hands of a very limited number of few people that all know each other. And especially when you start adding on issues of race, class, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, being, identity, and things of that nature. You need to study the history of how minority and vulnerable groups have been treated in general by government or by the general population. You need to understand the history of women in space and society and patriarchy and the imposition of male oppression on young women and the very clear historical attachments that correlate, like to look at women in business, women as property, women as having autonomy, women as being able to make decisions for themselves and others. If you don't study that, when you run a business, how won't you do what has been done? How won't you reiterate the patriarchal elements? If you don't study the history of race, class, gender, how will you not repeat the mistakes? You think automatically you'll just no? Nah, these are difficult concepts. And an example would be Elon Musk. He recently has been going on a rant about white folks being targets of discrimination, which if you studied anything, you'd be like, never happened. Like, and at least in the U.S., like, I understand, I'm localizing this to the United States of America. He's saying white folks need to be worried that if they become the minority, they will be slaughtered and eradicated by the other non-white groups. And if you studied history, you would understand how ridiculous that is. One, no Pan-Africanist that has had any major platform in the U.S. wanted to destroy the white people. All right, so first, you can take the black folks out of that conversation. Nation of Islam never wanted to destroy the white folks. The Rastas, they ain't trying to destroy white folks. The Black Panthers weren't trying to kill off the white people. There is not a single Pan-African or pro-Black group that advocated for genocide against white folks. If anything, it was civil rights and common humanity, and through the experiences of Black folks and minorities seeking liberation, it opens up conversations about the entire society because it ties into human rights. There's a history of Black folks choosing to show compassion, empathy, and progress instead of reiterating what the oppressor has done. When you think about what that does to the mind, where you have white folks like Elon Musk who are uneducated, have no experience or understanding of history and how marginalized people behave once they have power, he's assuming we all are as destructive as the European colonial culture, whether it was the white South Africans or white Americans here, United States white folks. And he assumes that everyone around the world would behave the way they do, which is an expression and an example of Eurocentrism and a lack of understanding of other cultures. Other cultures did not decide to be colonial. Other cultures did not go on a worldwide crusade and genocide mission. Other cultures did not create the atom bomb and try to blow up people and create weapons that can destroy the whole world. If you look at the history of what people of African descent have fought for and what Black people have fought for, what people who've moved here have fought for, the Latin folks, Latinx folks, and the Spanish-speaking folks that have come up from Central America, come up from South America, I haven't met a single one that says they want to exterminate the white people. The only group of people that I ever hear talking about exterminating other groups of people are the white folks. And y'all got to sort that out. I'm not saying all white folks believe in that. What I'm saying is the only place I ever hear it come out of is when you have people like our president talk about entire communities are genetically inferior. And I can't stand for that. So as a Pan-Africanist, I would never turn around and say, well, Black folks are superior and white folks are inferior to Black folks. That's not what a Pan-Africanist would say. That's what a colonist would say. And the reason why history and literature and the humanities and all things that are seemingly unimportant because they're not math, science, or know how to make money, they tie into how you use your math, your science, and what you do to make money. We have all this technology. AI is supposed to save the world. What has it done? It's convinced the government to give people that are already rich trillions of dollars. It is creating bots that steal people's intellectual property, a whole bunch of misinformation. And look how the machine learning and automated systems are being used in war tactics. Look at how they're being used to fire people. Like you had these Doge bros who couldn't define what DEI is, but they put it into a search on a computer model, on a ChatGPT, and started firing people based on the returns. So why would I be so excited about more technology, more money orientation, when we don't understand the effect that it's having on us? Do young people have an awareness of Marxist critique of capitalism? I'm not saying that young people should be Marxist. What I'm saying is Karl Marx did a really good assessment of how capitalism works and how it affects people. Are young people aware of it? Are they reading Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith? Are they reading Keynes and getting an understanding of 20th century economic theory? Are they reading Malthus? Are they reading E. Franklin Frazier and understanding Black bourgeoisie? Are they reading all these folks who have talked about how money works in society? Are they reading Gramsci? Are they reading Adorno? Are they familiar with the Frankfurt School? Are they aware of the Black theorists? And whether it's Frances Cress Welsing, whether it's Audre Lorde, there are a number of people who have written about humanity and what money does to people, what business does to communities, and how we can all work together in this exchange of resources. Unfortunately, a lot of white folks will not read anything written by a non-white person unless they're forced to. Well, then you're missing out on perspectives of how we would act if we had power. You're missing out on what the ideal world would be to a Black person if you're never reading what we write. And so then it's easy to be like Elon Musk and assume, well, if the Black people had power, they'd do to us what we did to them. You ain't never see a large group of Black people say they want to enslave white people. I'm not interested in that. What we seek is liberation and freedom, autonomy for self, to be able to design your own life, to have autonomy, to be self-directed. So please, do the research, read history books, read philosophy, read literature, participate in soft skill development, emotional learning development, not just math and science, not just computers, but what are you going to do with the power? What are you going to do with the responsibility? How do you take care of the vulnerable members of society? Right now, we have people in government that are acting like rapists. They literally are saying, unless you can physically stop me from doing what I want to do, then I can do whatever I want. That's rapist mentality. Part of power is to say, I can do all of these things and I choose not to. I can be violent, abusive, and mean, but I choose not to. And right now, our government is saying, let's be violent, let's be nasty, let's be mean, let's be aggressive, let's behave like rapists. If you can't stop me from taking it, then it's mine. And that's not what Black folks are trying to propagate, promulgate, or I think present as a platform. I think what Black folks and what other vulnerable groups have been asking for is human rights, civil rights, and the equity that was promised by the Constitution. When Elon Musk says, white folks, you better watch out, the other people are coming for you, he's lying. What it is the rich white folks is coming for everybody. And I don't mean all the rich white folks, but when you look at who are the billionaires that are saying humanity sucks, that it would be better if there were fewer humans on the planet, it doesn't tend to be people who look like me. It tends to be really wealthy people like Jeff Bezos, people like Elon Musk, people like Larry Ellison. And when you look at what they're doing in terms of humanity, don't go for that okie doke. Don't fall for the trap that, well, if you let the people that have been marginalized have control and power, they'll do to everybody what happened to them. And that's not the case. One of the things that you learn through the experience of being a marginalized group is you do not want to replace the system of oppression with another system of oppression. We see what that's doing in certain parts of the world right now. What we want is liberation. What we want is freedom for humans to be humans. What we want are human rights, civil rights, and for equitable protection under the law and equitable punishment under the law for people right now who get to avoid any types of punishment. So I think what Elon Musk is actually doing is sending out a dog whistle to all the racists and all the white supremacists who have not spoken vocally, but who feel it. Maybe there are a bunch of white folks who are worried that if they don't control what's happening, the rest of the world is going to get retribution. I just don't see it. I travel a lot. I've been from Maine down to Florida, out to California, Texas, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, a lot of different places. I have not yet met a group of Black people where their goal is to kill off the white folks. I have not yet met a group of Asian folks where their goal is to kill off the white folks. I have not yet met a group of Spanish-speaking folks where their goal is to kill off the white folks. I have not yet met a group of queer people, trans people, any of the terminology you want to use that wants to kill off all the straight people and all the white folks. White men are tired of being targeted as racist, sexist, anti-queer, all the straight people and all the white folks. White men are tired of being targeted as racist, sexist, anti-queer, fill in the blank. They're tired of that charge towards them. Well, then stop. Like, if you're a white man, fill in the blank. They're tired of that charge towards them. Well, then stop. Like, if you're a white man, if you're a white man and you're tired of hearing about white men being racist, well, then stop the racist shit. Learn from the people who have been affected, figure out what's racist, and be a participant. All the people that were like, yo, I'm an ally 5-6 years ago. Folks are like, I don't know. It's like, but I'm trying to be an ally. Why can't you call me an ally? Well, look what happened. The government says if you're an ally, you're going to get the punishment like the people. And folks backed off. Folks is like, oh, yo, civil rights, black rights. Oh, government's coming after us? Ooh, let me back up. Oh, yeah, let's go to Pride and dance around with people. And, oh, the government's shutting stuff down. Oh, let me back up. Yeah, we need to be anti-oppressive governments. Oh, but the government's coming after you and saying you're now, oh, let me back up. And that is what allyship looked like. And so if you want to be seen as a contributor, participant, member of community, then you got to be with community. if you're tired of being told you an old ass racist white man, maybe take a step back and look and see if you do what old ass racist white men do. And if you don't, then understand why people may assume you are. Just like when I walk down the street, I know women are afraid of me. And so I do things to help assuage that. All right? I shouldn't have to, but I do. It's the reality in the world we live in. And a corollary to colonialism is now white people have to deal with the repercussion of it. The amazing thing is somehow through Black liberation theology, somehow through connectivity and humanity, Black folks have said, we want a peaceful world where all of us can live together. That was Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. A world where your kids and my kids can run around together. Ain't nobody get up and say, we want to execute all the white folks and punish them for what they've done to people for 400, 500, 700, 1,000 years. No one says that. All right, so don't be believing Elon Musk and all these knuckleheads who did not study history, who are unaware. And every time people like that try to tell you, well, here's what humans do, ask them what they got their degree in. Ask them why they believe that. Because they read a book written by a friend that already says what they wanted to believe, confirmation bias. Do your own research. All right, peace and love. I got to make some food.